but we're in a time where you can be canceled if you happen not to, if you tripped over your shoes and bumped into somebody, and 30 years later, they say, hey, he bumped into me on the
Oh
street.
my God. I think that it's enabled people that don't necessarily have the technical abilities to express themselves in a way that they think accurately depicts what they're thinking. So I love to use AI daily. I use it for creative writing. I use it for concepts. I also use it for creating imagery. It's always good to have somebody talking in your behalf and saying your work is awesome. You don't want to be the one going, my work's awesome. You want someone to say that for you. So what's up, everyone? I'm Marcel Katz, the Art Plug. I founded the Art Plug Gallery, Art Plug Agency and Collective, and I'm working on some medical software and creative technical applications. I'm based out of Miami. I was born here in Miami. I've traveled a lot. I love to travel. I love to mentor. And I work with some nonprofits, including Positive Beings, which is an animal shelter based out of South Florida.
Diversified Game. Learn how to start, run, and sustain your business.
Hey, it's Kellen, and you heard it right. We got Marcel, the art plug. He's going to give us the game always on how he started, sustains, succeeds in what he does. And I tell you, with AI helping those of us who can't hold the pen straight, I mean, let's get right into the conversation. Marcel, you've done enough interviews. What's your opinion on art and AI? Let's just start hitting it right out the gate.
Honestly, I think it's a beautiful thing. I think that it's enabled people that don't necessarily have the technical abilities to express themselves in a way that they think accurately depicts what they're thinking. It gives them a platform and a way to show that. And it also gives you a great way to direct what your thoughts are and clarify what your vision is. So I love to use AI daily. I use it for creative writing. I use it for concepts. I also use it for creating imagery. So let's just say I'm working on a design for my eyewear. I will type in, what I'm thinking. Hey, I want something that represents Florence in Italy, and I want it to be this certain color. Can you make a sunglass design for me? Can you show me what it'll look like? And I type it into the prompt on Chat GPT, which offers Dolly, which is the Illustrator software or Illustrator model, and it'll spit out a concept for you of what the eyewear could look like. And then based off of that, I can get the sketching. You could trace it. You don't have to be the best at doing that. And from there, you can talk to your engineers or whoever is involved in your next step to produce it and make it real life. And this is a real example of that. We used AI to sketch what this shape would look like, and then I took it and made it reality. So yeah.
And you got some funky glasses like the Bolt V2 bubble gums.
Yes.
And you know, I've been wearing glasses since I was like 10. So I have a collection of like different, from the Ray-Ban stories to these Zennies that I have on right now. When you started being an artist, I mean, you're born probably an artist the way that when I was doing the research, at what age did you start? And then at what age did you know I could actually make a living out of this and then make, wearables?
Yeah, so it kind of started as a kid, really young age. I was always experimenting with different contests and things that the school would offer, whether it was like writing a book and illustrating it, narrating like figuring out a way to illustrate a moment in history. Like I was obsessed with, what do you call it? Greek, sorry. Yeah, I was obsessed with Greek mythology as a kid. So I would love to study all the different gods and goddesses and things like that. And I would start illustrating little stories. And then down the line, it developed into computers, building computers and understanding video games and playing the video games and starting to express myself through like the different skins that you would hack the computer with. So like, let's say you're playing Counter-Strike as a kid, but you don't want to wear what everyone's wearing. So we would implement like the skin of the video game in Counter-Strike in the back end. So like on my computer, I would be able to see like what I wanted. or like different aspects to the guns or whatever. We make it like a gold version. And this is before this was possible. So this is all done on the back end. And yeah, I mean, like as I grew up, I kept experimenting, but I didn't realize that this is something that was going to be, I didn't think I'd do it professionally. I was working, I studied hospitality, and then I went into the hospitality field. My first job was at a hotel as a guest services, a guest services teammate. And from there, I went into nightlife. And after doing about a decade in nightlife, I started to manage talent and be friends with artists. And then from there, I started to realize that this is kind of fun. These guys live a really cool life and they're able to do kind of what they want all the time. People love them for their creations and what they're creating, what they're putting out in the world, and you can make a living off of it. So I started to get more into that, plugging in the artists into nightlife by doing showcases and things like that at the venues. And little by little, I realized that, hey, what about the secondary market? I started to collect secondary market art, saved money, put art into prints, like multiples, which are like Warhols, Basquiat's, things like that. You can get some introductory Keith Harings. Those are the most inexpensive ones out of those three artists that you can get for like 20 grand, 15 grand, things like that, small pieces. And you build a collection, and down the line, they're starting to be worth money. I was like, you know what? I'm going to start selling some of the things in my collection and collecting more, buying more things. So that's how I started the dealership, which in turn funded my creative journey. So I was able to start getting into real art collectors' collections and getting the attention of people internationally, not just locally, by having the gallery, which led to me establishing myself as my own brand. The Art Plug didn't exist at first. What existed first was the online gallery. This is in like 2017. Then in 2018, I started to be like, you know what? I kind of want to brand myself because I can control my own market. If I want to give a piece of art away to somebody, I don't have to ask the artist and be like, yeah, I want to give this person a piece of art. Can you let me give them the art? And it just gave me more power as a creative. So yeah, from there, kept going and developing these concepts, but being fearless in my approach to how I would execute these showcases. So when you become an artist, you need to get your name out there. And how do you do that, right? It's not like you can just it's not that simple to make a viral piece of art and get the attention. It takes consistency. It takes a lot of development, and it takes a lot of time. Most artists don't just become a success overnight. Some do. There are extreme cases that this is possible, but for the most part, it doesn't work like that. So what I did was I wanted to show people not just my ability as a curator and as an event thrower, but as a talented artist. So I started to experiment not just in the physical game, but diversifying into digital. So I started spiderwebbing my artistic abilities. So an artist will paint, an artist will draw, an artist can create digitally. Most artists are in one lane. I was like, you know what? There's a lot of people excelling in one lane. How do I excel in many lanes? That way, when a collector approaches me or a brand approaches me, I can hit you from many angles. I don't just have a physical approach, I have a digital approach. So that was able to really get me moving forward, and I was able to create viral content. Completely on accident, though. The viral content was not on purpose. So I started to stem into using digital attributes and digital techniques, such as using Adobe Creative Suite, content editing for cool videos and things like that. But also having that physical component. Like when someone collects something from me, I always send a little extra. Even if they're collecting a different artist, I always send a little gift, a little extra that's my art on top of it. So it builds the awareness and things like that. But touching on the digital stuff, I started doing Giphy, GIPHY.com. And it was 2020. It was during, right when COVID was hitting and everyone's kind of like, what do we do? I was like, you know what? I'm going to teach myself something. I'm going to learn something. So I learned that, and among other things that I studied, but I went viral. I got like 30 million views on a creation that was like 3 different frames. So it's just like a simple movement like this. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. Well, that's 6 frames, but whatever. It was 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, whatever. 3 frames, the word TAP, and it got 29 million or 30 million views in, 2 months. And I was like, wow, this is wild. I'm like, this is kind of cool. I've only created 4 digital pieces. I kept creating. Now I'm at 4.2 billion on that. But yeah, and it's accents everything I do. So like, let's say I post on social media on my story, I can touch my post up with a little creative dancing like figure, kind of like an emoji that is added on to my post. It adds a little spice to it, makes it a little more interesting. And then I also experimented with Spark AR, which they're ending. Facebook for face filters, like being able to wear stuff digitally, face makeup, effects in the background where like it could be like you're in outer space or whatever. I did those. I got I think I'm up to 15 million now. And yeah, I just thought it was a good way to complement the physical art. So I think that answers the question.
Hello everyone! Join us on an exciting journey with Explore the World Cameroon. London and Sydney go take you explore Cameroon, the heart of Africa. Experience the vibrant culture, nature and traditions from Yaoundé market to rainforest adventures. Every page na new discovery. Enjoy the Cameroonian food, music and wildlife with our explorers. This book na true celebration of Cameroon spirit. Get your copy now. Available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and through your library and bookstores via Ingram's Park. Don't miss this adventure.
It definitely does. And for the artist out there, young or old, when you talk about the amount of views, and sometimes people say, they talk about their impressions because their impressions are always more, right? But how to monetize a moment like that, and how do you stay doing that? Because, somebody gets 1 million views today, right? Today, they're ready to quit their job, quit school, tell the boss what they need to go shove it. So how do you monetize that type of, traction?
Got it. So there's most platforms you are not really able to monetize. Some you are. Like if you're live streaming on Kick and things like that, yeah, it's paid subscriptions. You can have the option to have subscribers on certain platforms, but it depends on the artist. You don't always want to have people subscribe to you. It doesn't always make sense to do that, but sometimes it does, right? In order to monetize, you have to think about like, how can you make, let's take the example of the stickers and the digital stickers, right? What if I could create a page for the brand that with their creations? Let's say it's a water company and I make a bunch of different, like the water bottle spinning, and then that gets 10 million views or 20 million views. There's awareness to that, and that could lead to being more popular as a brand. And you could also take over certain hashtags. So like when you search certain keywords, let's say you search the word water and you just did a sticker of a water and it has the brand on it, it could be number 1. So people that may be drinking Fiji might switch over to whatever water brand you're pushing. And yeah, you just have to figure out ways to subliminally influence the viewer. You don't always want to be like in their face with whatever it is that you're trying to market. It could be a cool video of you having the water in your hand or having the product in your hand. Like Red Bull, they don't necessarily market the can so much of Red Bull. It's more of like, you'll see a video and it's a sick video of a guy on the BMX bike and he's flying, doing a bunch of tricks. And then for 1 second, it'll stop. The guy he'll drink the can. They don't show the can in your face or anything like that. It's just he simply drinks it. And then he goes on and does a double kick flip or a double flip, front flip or back flip. that's that's the way that a lot of these brands market. It's not so obvious. It's some of the best marketing isn't as obvious. But to monetize, I advise creators to try their best in spider webbing and getting into different platforms and just testing the waters out. You'd be surprised sometimes you can find the platform and your work will make sense for that platform. It's not always like, hey, you have to do what everyone else is doing. If you get on a platform, you might be really good at live streaming. You might be really good at digital art. You might be better physically. You might be better in person as a live artist. Like there's an artist that I have worked with in the past named Toy. Manuela is her first name. She goes by Toy Artists. Toy Art. Toy Invades is the handle. But she creates replicates experiences that are nostalgic and almost can do anything. And she does like these things on TikTok where it's super relatable. And one of her strengths is mural work. And then her other strength is in person. So like she can do something on the spot live and she's super personable. So it's like finding where you're really good at and then finding your strengths by experimenting in different mediums. And this is something that was new for her. It wasn't like she right away knew that she was a muralist. It was like she was trying it out. She started off with a certain style and then went more into realism and like not copying, but replicating and being inspired by cartoons and nostalgic moments that she could implement into real life situations where like at a trade show, people are wanting to take a selfie with her work. So I think the key is to always experiment. I don't think you should ever hold yourself in one medium. I know that you should always experiment. Otherwise you expire. If you try one thing and you're only doing one thing and it'll end one day. And if it's working, you best believe that other people are going to start doing that same thing too. A lot of artists that I know from the past that were digital artists don't create anymore. And my advice to them was like, change your style up. Like, let's make physical attributes and like physical parts to this concept. And the ones that didn't do that, they're not creating anymore. They're back working where they were before. And then the ones that did innovate and start to branch out into physical and digital, they stayed around. And they became even more, they became professionals in their art career.
Now,
So,
since you do both and you're multifaceted, for that person who maybe hasn't monetized yet, where they can do it full time, what's more profitable, being the artist or being the gallery?
there's going to be pros and cons to both. It's never easy unless you're an artist and you want to be filing sales tax, reporting sales tax for every sale you do. You want to deal with a lot of these things. And the system has been the system for a long time. A lot of artists, they go around the gallery and they try to do things themselves, which is good. It can be good, but it's always good to have somebody talking in your behalf and saying your work is awesome. You don't want to be the one going, my work's awesome. You want someone to say that for you. But at the same time, like having the ability to connect with a collector directly is always a good thing too. So sometimes selling on your own is good. Sometimes having a gallery is good. The key is to weigh those options out. And I'm an artist and I have a gallery. And I'll tell you, like, listen, I made more money being in the gallery side, having art that is, well, if a collector doesn't like my work per se, I have 100 options for you. You can't escape me because I have too many options for you. But they both have, it's preference. It really comes down to preference if you want to be the gallery or the artist. There's an art to being a gallerist. It's just a different kind of art, and making the experience great for a viewer or somebody that comes into your gallery, whether it's a digital gallery, your website, or however you may take that. But there is an experience to it. There's an art form to being a gallerist, and there's also an art form to being the artist. I think if you want to truly know what is good for you as a creative, work in the gallery space. learn about it. That way you don't go on in your career and go, I should have done this or I should have done that. You already know if you invest a little bit of time, like not when I say a little, I mean at least a year or so into the back end of the business, you're going to be a more successful artist because you're going to understand a lot more than other artists. You'll have a competitive advantage. And I think experience is the greatest educational tool that you can have. Like, for example, let's just say you work at a gallery and they sell fine art, like blue chip art. You will know that multiples are a great way to get your art out there, develop a market, set a market, and grow. I mean, look at Andy Warhol. He has a huge secondary market. Or Banksy, that everyone knows Banksy. He's one of the most famous street artists. He's one of the people behind the stencil graffiti movement, the British artist. But yeah, like these guys, they understand the secondary market, which makes their primary market very, very strong, makes them more efficient and more effective at being artists. They know how it works. And to be a creative, you want to tie in public relations, cool concepts with your work. And that is, I think, the best recipe. It's tying everything together and then being able to, it's like setting off a rocket. You know, when you push the button, everything's going at the same time. So you're getting the most attention possible. But yeah, I think experience and getting your feet wet in different areas of art is crucial for you to know where you want to be, because passion is what pushes art. If you don't know where you want to go or know feel 110% that this is what you should be doing, then you may not continue doing that. You might be wasting time.
Well, we call ourselves over here a PR-tist, and who hooked this interview up was Kat, the publicist. Do tellitpublicity.com. You guys know whenever I have someone from Kat, I shout her out. She is so great to work with, and she is also so hated in the industry because she has some cool clients like this. And people are like, oh, there's an art to PR. And you mentioned Banksy. Everybody knows of Banksy. Very few people or nobody knows, in the masses who Banksy is or what a Banksy is. That's a whole nother documentary,
Yeah.
What do you think about artists and how, the promotion, how every artist now can have a podcast if they want, where Banksy, whoever Banksy is or whoever they are, won't even do an interview. What's your opinion on, where we're going, AI and all this stuff? Should we be more vocal as artists? Should we sit in the back and let our art speak for itself?
So again, it really depends. Every artist is very unique and you have to find where you fit. There is no like road that's paved out, that there's no rule book that's like, follow these steps and you will be success. Art is supposed to be, you have to be original and authentic. And in order to be original, you have to be different. So if you have a different approach, it's not going to be the same as another artist. And if someone already is doing something, don't fully copy them. You might borrow a few concepts and a few ways that a certain artist moves, or you go and look at 10 artists that might inspire you and you go, I like this method. You know what? I like what this artist does, and combining those things and then finding a way that, finding if it makes sense. But artists like Banksy, it's a combination of mystery and public relations. When Banksy and his collective do something, they do it and it's in the news. And I always say, if it's not in the news or it's not written about, it never happened. So that's why people like Catherine are very important, because they help establish your story, and not just for a short term, but it's always online. You can always see it. It becomes a part of history. That's why this is cool, because this is forever. And that's art, is establishing that. Depicting a moment in time is what art is. And whether it's creative expression in writing or artistically and visually, it's a universal language. And especially now with technology, it really is global.
Yes, yes. And you gave her full name. And guys, if you again do tell it publicity.com for years, if not a decade or more. Yeah, I just known and seen her move, and it's just a beautiful thing. She has her own art form, and she tries to make it as affordable as she can. It's she really goes out of her way. So I really love her, and it's hard to ever say no, but it's hard to say no also when I see your artwork and I'm like, this is dope, this is fly, this is motivational. With the success that you've had, what's a community give back that you're doing or that you would like to do in the future?
Okay, so in the past, I've worked with autism awareness, and right now, currently, I help with animal rescue, which is called Positive Beings. My friend Isabella, well, we became friends after working together. We bring awareness to, animals in need, whether it's dogs, cats, things like that. And then her husband is a veterinarian, and it's just a really cool dynamic because, like, I'll go over there, I'll go to the house, pop in, and there's animals everywhere. It's super cool. I myself have a lot of animals as well. I have a few cats. I have one that's a rescue. Um, and listen, I think that being involved with a nonprofit, always do your research, make sure that they're, a legitimate 501(c)(3), and that they're, registered, active, and things like that before you start dedicating your bandwidth to it. But find something that works for you. I think giving back is always a good thing. It just feels right. For someone like me, I love it. I think it's super cool. It really warms me to be able to help a community of people that care about animals. And it's really grown on me. And I look at my animals and I'm like, it's just the most authentic thing ever. It's real love. And for me, some of the ways that I started figuring out which ones to work with is realizing that your bandwidth is not unlimited. So pick one that you love and dedicate your time. Send them an email and be like, yo, I want to work with you guys. I believe in what you believe in. And how do we make this happen? Well, they might go, hey, volunteer at this event we're doing, and that's how you get your feet in the door. Just start make an effort and let them know that you're willing to work with them, and it can grow from there. Now I'm on like almost like a best friend basis with this animal shelter where it's like I could pop in, I have the relationship with the husband, we go to the gym together and stuff like that, and we talk about he'll like explain to me like some of the animals that he's working with, what they're currently working on, how many cats they saved last month. It's really cool. It's different. And it's rewarding. It's probably one of the coolest parts of being a creative is that you're able to really work with so many different industries. And for me, I love the animals. So I work with Positive Beings.
Gotcha. And how would you tell an artist who says, I've been trying this, or maybe they're the 14-year-old kid, doesn't know a professional artist, is going to school, college, going to Italy? What's maybe the best thing you've seen to have somebody be able to live out their dream in the arts?
Well, the key, I think, is wherever you are and whatever you're studying, and is focus on never being in a box. Try to push yourself to learn, read, always grow. If you're not growing, you're going to be static, and it won't lead to finding, I think, the true happiness that you want to find. I mean, ultimately you want to have the freedom to do what you want to do when you want to do it, right? But getting there isn't as simple as people think. You must put effort into it, and you must kind of master what you want to do. You have to be great at it, and it takes years to do that. And I think that there's nothing wrong with failing. I think failing is a big part of the process. I fail often. There's not all of my partnerships last forever. Some do, some don't, and that's okay. The key is to understand what didn't work and what works, and then how to implement that into your life so that you can continue on growing. And you can't be that hard on yourself where it's like, oh, things aren't working out. Oh, I'm not selling my work. That's completely okay. you can't stop pushing your art. You have to be confident in your work, confident in your abilities to produce the outcomes that you're looking to produce, and execute. And just know that you're here for a reason. And if you feel that you're here to create, you can always send me a DM. I'm happy to give you a little bit of a spark. That's no problem. I love doing that. I actually do some complimentary mentoring on the side for artists and that don't have the funding that other artists do, just to give them a little bit of a push. And you'd be surprised of what you can achieve. Art is a long game, and creativity is something that you should do inherently. It should feel right. Don't force it, and don't be scared to show it. And sometimes when people may not be liking your art, that's what you think. They don't like it or love it. It doesn't necessarily mean it's not good. Find a new audience, figure out another way to express it and showcase your work. I think that, we are very lucky people. We're here on this earth. And for me, creation is part of why I'm here. I just want to make the world a brighter place. I want to make it a place where human connection is, something that everyone can do. And that's for me, doing art. I think it's a great way to connect to people. Like, think about it. You can speak anyone's language when it's a drawing. It doesn't have to be a written thing. So whatever that art form is, I think pursue it to the best of your ability. Don't be scared to fail. And you got to be consistent. It's not an overnight thing. And if it happens to be an overnight thing, take a step back and be like, okay, what worked here? Because if you continue with being in the right place at the right time, you could fall and not realize why it happened. So, but yeah.
$1 million, $1 billion question. Sometimes people think, if I could sell one item for a big amount of money, I now put myself into another category. So even if I have to, take a second mortgage on the house, I'll have my brother buy my art, and then I'll have the media come to me. Have you ever seen this method work, or do most people run out of money because they don't have, over millions or billions to make that happen? Can you buy your way into being a successful artist?
Look, I've seen this, and I suspect it, and I don't think there's longevity to it. I don't think it's a really smart route. I think especially now where the world is so smart, everything's on the internet. Like, you don't want to be doing something like that, and then in 5 years you're basically, let's say, that's kind of fraud. It's not a good way. You don't want to mislead people. It's not a sustainable way to think. So if you think you can do that, and I've seen it happen, listen, you might be hot for a year or two, but you're going to be trying to catch your tail. You're going to be going like this in a tailspin, because it's not something that can really work. I had somebody the other day tell me, like, hey, they're funny, to tell me that they wanted to do a baby oil with duct tape at Basel, and that they were going to have somebody buy the artwork. It's not like that simple. It takes a lot of planning to do something like that. And you have to have it has to make sense. And someone did the banana with the duct tape, where it sold for like $100,000, and someone ate the banana. It's like, it's hard to say what's real, what's not. I wouldn't suggest doing anything that's not authentic or inauthentic, because it's just not something that I think will survive, and it's not ethical. I think you should stay true to yourself. That's like salesperson mentality. And I just think if you're really good at what you do, people are going to come to you, and they're going to just come. They're going to ask you for your work. They're going to ask you for your abilities. Don't try
Without calling somebody out, have you ever seen it work? And if so, how much did they have to spend?
I've seen it work. I've seen people do that. It's very rare for it to have longevity. I've seen it happen. I've totally seen it happen many, many times. How much money? it could range. I mean, you could, for example, I've seen people do this, right? This is something insane that people do. And I actually know the artist, and the guy basically put his work on an auction house and then had other people at different parts of the world buy the art at the auction, right? So there's like, let's just say there's like 30 views on the art, and the art sold for, a print, like multiples, a print sold for 5 grand, 10 grand, 15 grand, things like that, right? And it's like, dude, there's only like 10 bids. There's no way that the math didn't make sense. And I was talking to another artist, somebody that is very authentic in his approach, plays the long game. He's been doing this for like 15 years. And we're talking, and he's like, yeah, like we're just, because we both we used to collect the work. And we're like, yeah, it's something fishy about that. Like we can tell that it's not real, that these results are not accurate depictions of the market price. And now I'm talking a year and a half later, bro, a lot of the art that I have of this guy is not worth anything. No one wants it. It's crazy because got greedy at the beginning and got greedy. And he was doing art for like, this guy was professional for under a decade, but he was doing well, and then started doing this about a couple of years ago, I think under 2 years ago. And now I don't get any requests for the artwork anymore. People find out. People are going to do their research, man, especially now. Have you collected anything that like where you like do your research and you're like, okay, well, this is a good deal. I see it for, $500 for this print right here, and I see it on another website for 700. So I'll get it from this guy. It seems like a good deal, you know? Like
Yeah,
Jordan,
yeah.
sneaker market. Like sneaker market's a very good example of this. This has happened in the sneaker market.
Definitely. I mean, even baseball cards as a kid, and then
Oh, yeah.
you kick yourself when you're like, oh, I should have held on to that. Or, if you give me art, I'm gonna put it up somewhere in my house, whether it's at the bar or in the front door. I have a Tupac that's paper mache, but it
Okay.
looks beautiful from an artist in Seattle, one of my wife's friends. And it's like, I'm gonna put up the art because you never know. And if I like it, I love it. And
Yeah.
so when you see that though, because now we're in and excuse me, I'm saying this, not Marcel, but we're in a time where you can be canceled if you happen not to, if you tripped over your shoes and bumped into somebody, and 30 years later, they say, hey, he bumped into me on the
Oh
street.
my God.
Have you seen artists being canceled? And so they had great art and now they're canceled because Andy Warhol and Basquiat and a slew of others, Leonardo, Raphael, all of them had something they did. Have you seen that?
Yeah, I mean, with the secondary market, these guys, they're not really in as much control as it was back in the day. They're not around anymore. So the estate really controls the relationships and things like that. And they really monitor and control the supply of the art. So it's, for the secondary market stuff. Yeah. I mean, if someone finds out that the guy was a murderer, it could hurt the market for the guy. It probably will. My bet is it would. People will be like, I don't want this art in my house because the guy killed somebody. But in the times we live in, you never know. It's crazy. It's crazy nowadays. But yeah, I mean, it's people are like, especially like with the guys that are like around and stuff like that. You could get canceled. I think it's possible, but that's why you got to create art for the reason of like, I don't like of love and of honesty and authenticity. It shouldn't be like, I want to make quick money. You won't last long at all. You'll cancel yourself. I don't think people can really go, don't buy that person's art because they don't like him. Nowadays, there's so many different communities of enthusiasts. There's no option for them not to. Like, for example, do you think let's just use Banksy again. Banksy back in the day when he was starting to grow in the street art market, people were covering the art. He was doing it in England, and people were covering it, taking it down. It was considered vandalism. He got to a point where the guy is worth so much and has played such a crucial role in the art community and in the impact of culture in our world that, you know, the government is putting protective glass over it to protect it. That's very unique. And he stayed mysterious for a long time because it was illegal to do it at the time, you know, and he could have been canceled, but he found a lane, he stuck in that lane. And then it was like, listen, when money's involved, everyone kind of wants in. So they're gonna be like, yeah, listen, if I can get my hands on these pieces and I know they're gonna be worth 5, 10 more, 10x later on, I'm in. Like, that's a great deal. I'll get it. So that's kind of like what happened with Banksy. I mean, he wasn't welcomed everywhere at first. His collective was, you know, grew into it. They were accepted later on, and then it just blew up. So it's kind of like from being, you know, labeled as a vandal to praised as one of the greatest artists of our time.
And I don't need you to, you know, I don't want to bring any smoke to you, but how many artists, when we grew up in them big books that, you know, had nice shiny pages, did we hear about artists with mental health issues? And, you know, sometimes you got to be a little crazy to be creative because you're not thinking like the average person. You know, you're working at 1, 2 a.m., you know, and you go to bed at 5, 6, or whenever you feel like it, or you don't at all because you're just on a high that only artists really can understand that. You know, creatives get it. Like, yeah, we're up because we're all the way up, all the way up. So
Yeah.
I love artists. I need to know, do you have a podcast? Do you have a book or a collection? Like, how do people get more of you? You have a beautiful website. One site begets another site, but where can they like tap in outside of calling you where maybe you're giving weekly advice or monthly advice or quarterly?
Yes. So I did launch an editorial on the website. I've been working on building that little by little. I'm gonna start opening up a little bit more and giving actual real advice. And then opening up my consultation type of platform up that has been being built. It's almost done. It should be up in the next 60 days. But I've been trying to get on different podcasts and things like that so that I could express, you know, what my thoughts are on the industry and things of that nature. But yeah, I mean, listen, I can totally agree with what you're saying. I think that it's not something that I think should be addressed as a cool thing, where it's like, you know, being crazy is a cool thing. I've been in that situation, you know, I've been in a situation where I kind of lost myself for quite some time. And it took a while for me to get back to what I thought was my normal self. Although I did come back the strongest I've been and the most mentally clear that I've ever been. It was a struggle. I did therapy. I did a lot of self-help. And I lost a lot. Well, I didn't lose a lot of friends, but a lot of people stopped being around me due to some of maybe my behavior. I never hurt anybody, but I was overly expressive and maybe not communicating as effectively as I could have. And a lot of it kind of was a blur. I was just trying to learn more about what drives me, what the next steps are. And you might lose yourself sometimes. It's okay to kind of think outside the box and get outside the box, as long as it doesn't involve, you know, causing pain or inflicting any pain on anyone like yourself or those around you. And it's important to address your issues. Talk to somebody that's unbiased. There's a lot of different ways to do that. And if you can afford a therapist, I highly recommend doing therapy. I don't know if you've done therapy before. Yeah. And how often do you do it?
I try to do it at least once every other week because it's the best. It's the best thing. I mean, let's be honest. Nobody wants to
Yes.
hear a man complain,
Yeah.
not your
And-
mother, not your wife, not your girlfriend,
yeah.
nobody.
Exactly. And it's great to do that. And I didn't realize that. I was venting to people around me, like trying to get them to understand what I was going through. And it's like, yo, like everyone's a business. Like, don't bring that energy over here. Like, stay vibing, stay good. Get it out of you so that you can bring positivity to those around you. And
Yeah.
you listen, like there's a lot of for those listeners and viewers out there, there's also good alternatives. Let's say whatever state you're in, look up, Florida nonprofit mental awareness and mental, programs. They have good therapies out there that can help you. One of the ones in Florida, I know you're in West Palm Beach. I'm in Miami, that I recommended to somebody. I did some research for one of my clients, was Survivor's Pathway. And they're a nonprofit. All you got to do is a simple intake form. If you really need it, they're going to help you. And I do mine. I used to do it every week. And then, I just, my therapist is like, listen, like we're covering more than we need. We can do once every 2 weeks. So now I do once every 2 weeks. I do it with a company that's based out of here. And it's a lovely therapist. Her name is Victoria, super sweet. And I built a great relationship with her. And it's helped me a lot, like dramatically. Like, if you're questioning what you're feeling, which you have a right to feel the way you feel, always, but think about how and who you can talk to that might make the most sense. It's an unbiased opinion. They're going to help you. It's going to help you move in the right direction. So yeah, I'm grateful for figuring that out. And over the past year, it really changed my life. I'm not going to listen, be vulnerable for a second. I'm proud of it. I think it takes a lot to say it publicly. And I think I advocate doing it. I think it's good for everybody. Yeah.
You know what I always tell myself? It hasn't hurt. And if it hasn't killed you, hasn't hurt you, and we are all dealing, the older we get, with loss of my biological parents are no longer here.
Yeah.
A lot of stuff goes through your mind.
Yeah.
So yeah, it doesn't kill you. So why not keep going? I want the conversation to keep going. You and I are going to stay connected, but I know everybody has ADHD at the same time. So
yeah,
until next time, you guys, but let the people know where they can find you, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, so you can find me on Instagram at the Art Plug. So that's TheArtPlug, or you can check out artplug.com. We offer a variety of services, and if you need advice or need a little bit of a spark, I'm always here to help. Stay good, stay creative, stay plugged. Thank you for having me. Appreciate you. Is there anything that you want to add?
Oh man, we're going to do that offline, but I'll tell the people this. I thank you no matter how you experience this. I know most of you are listeners, but go over to wherever you can get a video experience. Go check that out. You can make your comments, you can like, but most importantly, can you share this game with someone? It will change their life. You guys, be blessed.
Are you tired of the rat race in America? Are you ready to visit the motherland to relax and rejuvenate? Are you ready to explore all that Africa has to offer? Then check out the brand new Diversified Game Academy course, Prepare for My First Trip to Africa. Are you worried about being able to afford the trip? We got you. We will show you how to travel either on a budget or as a baller. Learn how to stretch the value of the USD. Did you know that 100 United States dollars is worth over 1,000 South African rand, or 10,000 Kenyan shillings, or 54,250 West African CFA? Are you worried about taking your kids? Get the game from Kellen Cash, a bona fide world traveler, having traveled to almost 20 countries, several of those in Africa. Get the game on taking your kids on their first trips. Learn how to find the best tickets, get the visas, and plan your own adventures in Africa. Don't let Eddie Murphy have all the fun. Plan your own coming to Africa trip starring you, produced by you, and featuring you. If you are ready for a life-changing experience, sign up for our course today, Diversified Game Academy. Get prepared and purchase at diversifiedgame.com.